welcome to another video. And finally, I will be posting my experience with the co-op. Long overdue. It's kind of funny that I did this video on the anniversary of when I gave my 2 months notice for the business, and this was about a year ago, so it's quite interesting. I chose the perfect date for it. I am doing these videos in my car. I do apologize. It's just it works best with what I'm doing at the moment, which I will get into it in another video. So yeah guys, so the video is going to follow exactly the same structure as all the other ones did. This will be divided in 5 categories, which tends to be what people tend to search for the most when they are searching for another job. Number 1 will be work-life balance, number 2 will be salary and benefits, management would be number 3, number 4 will be culture, and number 5 would be your progression. Okay, progression in career opportunities. Okay, I am actually quite glad that I am posting this video a year later, because at the time that I started to do these videos, my opinion of the co-op would have been quite negative because of the experience I've had. I also, before anything else, want to say that the co-op is a massive business within the UK. Co-op is divided into 3 sections or 3 different businesses as well. I think it's worth mentioning. I work personally for the main co-op, which is that logo that everybody knows. So the blue logo on a sort of grey background, that will be the one I work for. And their head office is in Manchester, that massive beautiful building they've got on there. Okay, so like I said, it's a massive business. It has over 2,400 stores. It's got a massive head office in Manchester. It's got distribution centers across the country, so I believe there are 12 of them at the minute. Plenty of areas, plenty of stores, plenty of area managers. If you are joining as a store manager, each area tends to have anywhere from 16 to 25 stores. The area of Bristol at the time had about 18 stores, and I think they now have 20, if I'm not incorrect. Okay, so I just want to say just because I've had a bad experience and I had a bit of a bad opinion about the business when it came to the frontline retailing, doesn't mean you will. Okay, so I just want to leave that out there. I'm just sharing my opinion, my experience, and just sort of giving you as much information as possible. All right, so let's move on to the number 1. Number 1 would be work-life balance. In terms of shifts, the shift patterns that you would be expected to do as a store manager would be either 8 till 4 or 9 till 5. The reasoning behind this is because the field teams, the office teams, and all those bits and pieces, they work on the similar schedule, 9 till 5, 8 till 4. So they kind of expect you to be there for them, which is again something that I personally don't agree with, because you should follow the needs of your store and not exactly what head office wants just because they work on a 9 till 5 basis. Retail doesn't really work like that. However, 8 till 4, 9 till 5 are pretty good shifts to be on. If you were going against the current and you wanted to do a different kind of shifts tend to be either 6 till 2 or 2 till 10, or you can do something in the middle as 10 till 6, something like that. But because you'd be a store manager, it would be completely up to you as to what kind of shifts you'd be doing. I personally always done my shifts according to the bulk of the business and what the business required from me from my store. In terms of work-life balance, my opinion is quite divided on this. Now, even though you do a 6 till 2 o'clock, you get way too many Microsoft team calls away from your schedule. So if you're working on a 6 till 2, sometimes you would have Microsoft calls at like 3 o'clock, which you would be expected to be on them. You would have sometimes weekly calls with the area, and then weekly calls with my boss's boss to talk about how the week has been previously, and then you would have an immense of other calls to do, because also something that's worth mentioning is I worked for the co-op during the pandemic and its peak, so a lot of it kind of felt like individuals were trying to show that they are actually doing something because they were working from home, and they ended up creating more work for store managers rather than take away work from store managers, which is what they should have done. So in terms of work-life balance from a COVID perspective, it wasn't good for a store manager. Another thing that the co-op does that I always disagreed with is using WhatsApp for everything. My area had about 8 different WhatsApp groups, and that is just the worst thing in the world, because your phone is constantly buzzing, plus you're not provided with a work phone as well. You have to use your personal phone, which legally you don't have to do any of that, by the way. And we had 8 groups because co-op does so many different things. It does deliveries, it does armies, it has post office, and then it's got online ordering. You would have a group for each department of this with their respective field manager as well, or field person, or field coordinator, whatever you want to call it. And then you would have the area group, you'd have the store manager group, you have the team manager plus store manager group at the time, and then you would obviously have your store's leaders and then your store's team members. I am, and I will always be against the invasions of privacy, which is what WhatsApp for me is. If I'm at home and you're texting me on WhatsApp, you're invading my privacy outside working hours. That's just the end of that story. Okay, so in terms of work-life balance, my opinion is a little bit divided. Okay, the work in terms of trading hours, the business in co-op tends to be up from 6 to 11 or 7 till 10. It depends on what area. So my store was on a 7 till 10. However, it just changed recently to a 6 till 11. Okay, and there are some stores that are 24/7, but they tend to be in a service station or something like that. Okay, so in terms of work-life balance, it's a 50-50. It's not a positive nor a negative. It just depends on how firm you want to make yourself. If you are joining an area in the co-op, be against being in you can be within a store manager WhatsApp group. However, just do use a work phone or request a work phone. I know that they won't provide it for the most part, but if they insist on you using the WhatsApp, I would suggest you do that. Get a work phone, because at least you can just put that work phone on a desk somewhere when you get home, and that's the end of that. You don't get bothered again. There's nothing worse than you being at home holding, your 2-month-old son or something, or having a nice barbecue, and you get a text message saying this hasn't been done. Why is that at 6 o'clock? Just because this person hasn't finished their shift, but you have. It creates a 24/7 working environment, and that's not healthy to be in. That's one of the things that messed me up when I was with them. But the world is changing, and I know for a fact that they are changing as well. So I also want to leave that out there. Yes, that's work-life balance. Let's move on to number 2, which is, well, I don't know which order I said it on the beginning, but let's just say progression and opportunity. So in this case, co-op is actually great. I will be completely honest. The business is so massive, and there is so many different departments within his capabilities, and within their distribution centers, offices, field teams, different departments they've got. It's such an immense, vast business that your opportunities are endless. For example, what I really wanted to do before I ended up leaving the co-op is actually go on a secondment to logistics. Unfortunately, my store was undergoing a refit. There was a lot of expectations for the next year, and ended up being rejected. So I wasn't able to do that secondment. But if I would have done that secondment, and I would have ended up being able to go into logistics and then staying permanently on there, I probably would still be with the business today. Maybe what I should have done in this case is I should have just been honest, saying this is what I've been dealing with in terms of personal, this is what I've been dealing with in terms of my head and health, and I just can no longer do it in a healthy way. I can no longer carry on doing this. Okay, so that's probably what I should have done. In the end, I ended up resigning because I thought I had a different role that I could follow, and I did that. But it's like I said, because you're a store manager, if you are in the businesses, after 6 months, you can literally apply for any other job internally. There is so many different departments. You can, if you would be willing to relocate to Manchester, you've got that massive building they've got in Manchester, which is beautiful building to work on. You've got then the RDCs if you are interested in logistic operations. You then got the field managers if you want to deal with things like deliveries or online ordering, operation development leads for either of these stores. the opportunities, in my opinion, and the progression opportunities are endless. In terms of progression within stores, if you are a store manager, you will also get the opportunity to become an area manager if you wanted to. It's like I said, Co-op is growing massively. They are opening stores left and right. There is no corner in the country, I think, that you won't have a Co-op at the moment, which creates a massive area search for area managers. So if that is what, if you like running the business and achieving KPIs and targets and things like that, maybe that's the path you want to work on. This would just be the case of yourself working with the area manager and the district manager in order to achieve that goal. Just keep in mind that you would potentially be having to relocate because, your boss might not lose his job or might not want to do something else. So you might have to relocate for that. If you are a team member, the only path to store manager obviously would be from customer team member to team leader, and then from team leader to store manager. Quite a good path as well. There is loads of opportunities to become a store manager as well around the country. Plenty of opportunities to become a team leader. So yeah, this would, for me, would have been the most positive thing about the business of Co-op. Let's go to management. So management for me is a massively negative one. For me, the lack of decision making within the business is horrifying. The lack of, we put people first. The whole idea of Co-op is that you put people first. The business, in the time that I was there, whether it was COVID or not, they haven't done that once, or at least they couldn't prove that they've done that. Besides, creating this well-being pages where you can call and sort of say, I'm stressed kind of thing. That's not good enough to me. There should have been, a much more consistent response to what it was happening within the business. So instead of relieving pressure from store managers, they added more pressure by creating an immense amount of phone calls that you just, of conference calls, online conference calls that you just, for the most part, you didn't have Wi-Fi to attend. You would have to attend these from home a lot of the times. Of course, all these individuals, they'll be working from home, so they wouldn't have a problem doing that. However, you are working in store. What they should have done is do exactly that. Another thing that they should have done is not just close the office down for people, as in these people would be very much more useful on the floor or in stores rather than just say you need to work from home now, and that will be that. Like, for example, within my store, within that year, I had plenty of situations where I could have used the help from people that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am. I had suspensions and investigations and disciplinaries that could have easily been handled by an HR person, someone who's actually qualified to deal with these situations. Of course, that if it's a low case, as a store manager, you're expected to deal with it, and it's fine. However, if it's a high-profile case like mine was, that is what should have happened. And unfortunately, when it came to my boss, I didn't get much support from that. If anything, he only made it worse, because the two individuals that were, let's say, if we're talking about this HR case, the two individuals that were on the case, basically, they ended up resigning at the end of it. And I ended up talking to them after their resignation personally, and some of the things that they said, that my boss gone out of his way to tell them, it was just unacceptable. He dealt with that in the worst possible way. And in terms of support, Co-op is a lot of words but no action. Like, for example, during COVID times, when the high street, half of the high street was closed, what they should have done is kept the closing times at 6 o'clock, because at the end of the day, at the end of the night, on winter specifically, it gets dark at 5 o'clock, at 5 p.m. So you're basically there from 5 till 10 on high streets, lights blooming, completely open planned windows. Anybody who wants to be mean and anybody who wants to be harmful or steal something, shoplift, things like that, they can literally just walk to the street, look inside, see who's working, and plan their execution of whatever it is that they came down and do it. This is the kind of decisions that colleagues and store managers would have appreciated, instead of opening a department for well-being. It just doesn't mean anything to any of us. Didn't mean anything to any of us. there was a lot of do's, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but they never get done. So in terms of management, that's what I had to deal with. If you are a store manager within your store, be prepared to be on your own, because you get no support from the business. This has been my personal experience. Okay, in different areas it may be different, in different departments it may be different. Just my personal experience, and I had this opinion around the area as well, is that there was a lot of talk but no action. And now the next one. So next one would be culture and ways of working, I guess it would be a good way to say it. In terms of tech and what kind of equipment they use, I think Co-op is not that bad. In terms of cash office, in terms of livestock as in stock files, you mean? In terms of price reductions, in terms of all the bits and pieces that you need to run your own shop, I think Co-op is not in a bad place. I think they actually progressed tremendously within the last 5 years. The thing that I've got a problem with culture is that Co-op should be a person first business, and that's what they propaganda, and that's what they basically say in terms of commerciality and to attract people. That's what they do. Unfortunately, that is a for me that's a false statement. I did not see that at all. A lot of the times when somebody said we are a people first business, we used to ask the question, prove it. I said, is it that so? Can you prove it? Physically, right now in my store, can you prove that you care about people? There is a lot of decisions that I personally would have made in order to protect colleagues. Like for example, like I said in the previous section, is close it down earlier. We didn't make that much money within the 2 hours that we left it open. We should have closed at 8 every single day. There is no reason for us to be open at 10 o'clock as well, because a lot of the times what happens is our budget is so tight in terms of hours that you end up running the shop on an evening on a one-to-one basis, and it's just not what you want, because it leaves you open for abuse, it leaves you open for shoplifting, it leaves you open for all these bits and pieces. So even though the culture is people first, people make our business, we don't care about people. That was what my feeling was. That's what stressed me out. Like for example, I had to fight for about 6 months or anywhere from 4 to 6 months to get a security guard in my shop, because I was losing thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds worth of stock every single week, because people would just literally come in, abuse one of my staff members, and then just walk out with a bag full of meat. And any business proposal that you would give to them, they would literally just put it underneath their pile of paperwork when they would come in, and they would just throw it in the bin. That's what it felt like. It's not acceptable. There is a lot of things that they should have done in terms of keeping our colleagues safe and secure and willing to come to work, in a safe manner. They could have, in the worst parts, like for example, Bristol's a rough city. You get nice people, but you get also a lot of rough individuals coming through. Maybe what you should have done is put a members only in these sections, close stores down early 2 hours, but maybe open them earlier 2 hours. That would also be fine. Decisions like this, maybe adjust budget according to what the store actually needs and not what the area needs, because I had my budget when I was there for the beginning was actually quite good, for 135, but then that kept decreasing across the year, and at the end of the day I was starting to only be able to put 2 people on a late shift, which is not good enough, because you need at least 3 people in order to make the place safe. If something happens and the other person is in the warehouse, in the stockroom doing something, then you're literally left alone on the shop. So I won't really waste too much time on what the culture actually is, because they do have these statements that they have like integrity and leadership and can do things, but to me that loses its interest as soon as they don't make decisions, and that's where I think the culture within the Co-op fails left and right. Okay, but I also say that I had a conversation with a lot of people that don't work in stores, and they absolutely love their job. In logistics, they say it's as simple as coming in, filling up a cage full of stock, getting out, kind of thing. The salary is actually not bad. I think they're paying at the moment 25k a year for a warehouse op, for example, which is really good. Team manager gets around 35k. So and all the field managers I spoke to, they really like what they're doing. One of them was in charge of refit delivery team. One of them was in charge of delivery online systems. One of them was in charge of online systems as well. And they all love their job. It seemed to me like the stores, which are the money makers of the business, were the ones that were neglected the most. Okay, so I just want to really put that out there as well, because it's not fair that I'm giving a negative opinion on stores when in fact the business actually has really good things going on around the business. Okay, but at the end of the day, the stores are the ones that make money, so what are we doing about that? That was my question. So yeah, there will be culture, and I will leave it at that. All right. Moving on. I'm trying not to be too negative, and I apologize if I am being. But yeah, the business could be an extremely powerful and progressive business, to be completely honest, and one of the best to work for in the UK, I think, if they made the right decisions. Absolutely. So let's move on now to the last one, and probably one of the main things that people join the business, which is salary and benefits. In terms of benefits, you get the normal package that you get in other places. You get 31 days of holidays. This is including bank holidays as well. You would get discounts on the shop floor. You get 15% discount, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, they do every month, I think, every 2 weeks, I believe it was, they would do these massive promotions on different types of products. They would get something like 25% discount. You would obviously get, you'd become a member of the business. You can possess shares as well if you'd like to. And then in terms of salary, I believe that for a customer team member at the minute, you get paid £9.50, okay? I don't think has increased this year, because they would get £9.50 a year ago when I joined, and I believe that they haven't increased it. They left it at minimum wage, which is quite interesting because it's been a struggle to find people. So I find that extremely interesting from Co-op. However, they have increased the team leader salary. Instead of being £10.45 like it was when I left, it has increased to £11. I think the reason for this is because they made the team managers redundant last year. So they've increased the team leaders a little bit, because I think they were struggling to get those. Okay, and the responsibility was starting to follow store managers, and it just became overwhelming. At least this is what I hear on the street. In terms of store manager's salary, I actually don't think it's that bad. I think it's quite average, to be honest, because the salary can vary from 28k to 35k depending on what store you are in. Also keep in mind that the Co-op has an adaptability of the area that they operate. You can have a convenience shop, you can have a convenience plus, you can have a convenience student shop, or whatever you call it, and all other bits and pieces. You also have discounted Co-ops somewhere. It will vary a lot from what place you're working in. You also, however, have stores which are called, I think, flagship shops or flagship stores. In these ones, you would get anywhere from 35 to 40k, if not more, just because they are that important for the area, basically. And it's one of those things, like if the store sneezes on compliance anywhere, basically the whole area gets a call. That's the kind of thing in terms of these stores. You also have the supermarkets within Co-op. I don't think the main one actually has one. I think this is more Central or Southern Co-op possesses those, and their salary will be anywhere from 40 to 45 as well. Okay, in terms of area manager salary, it's actually really good as well. You would earn anywhere from 50 to 65k, and obviously you get your own car, you get expenses paid, laptop, phone, all those bits and pieces that you would need in order to make your role viable and doable, really. And that has been my experience with the Co-op. I hope I haven't been too negative, because that's not what my objective was. What I will say as well now towards the end is that even though my experience throughout that year was negative, I think that if I would have put up with it for a little bit longer, and now I've gotten a secondment or a transfer to a logistics role, I think I would probably still be in the business today, just because that's where I ended up going anyway. I ended up going into logistics. So I think if I would have stick out and be a bit more patient, I could have potentially, you know what, done well within that logistics or something else, but logistics would have been what I would go for. One thing that I will also say is after I left the co-op, I made a decision that what I would like to do in the future is become an HR manager or an HR rep for a business somewhere or a CAS. I have started to do a CIPD level 3 and I would really like to do CIPD level 5 as well. I made a decision that I will never in my life let a company abuse me or abuse my team the way co-op has. Or that's the decision I've made. Things that they know they can't do, but they don't tell you that they can't do it, so you end up being like, okay. That's the kind of decision I've made. At least this is what I felt within my area. So, in other words, the experience was negative, but you know what? I ended up taking a lot out of it. I ended up learning a lot. I ended up learning what I actually want to do with my life in the future. And what I'm studying and working towards now was actually thanks to the negative year that I've had with them. But also keep in mind that it was a COVID world, it was a COVID period, everything and every business could have went upside down. So it might be, even though people say it's not, it might have been just a period. Okay, it might be that everything's gone back normal, everything's better. So I also want to put that out there. And that's pretty much it, guys. I know I've been rambling on left and right, and I do apologize for that, but you know what? That's what these videos sort of are about. And it's been nearly 30 minutes, so I do apologize. And if you have sticked around for this long, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I appreciate that you've been watching me for this long. And I will talk to you guys later. If you guys disagree with anything that I've said, by all means drop me a comment or let me know. If you're really upset with something I said, just drop me a PM or something like that, and I will definitely respond to you. And I love debate and I love arguing a little bit, okay? So, hey, by all means. Let me know if you had a similar experience as well, because I'll be quite interesting, because it might have been just my area, it might have been other people's area, it might just be a country-wide problem. It's always good to know. Alright guys, thank you very much for sticking around. I appreciate you all. Drop me a like and a sub if you really enjoyed the comment. If not, then I wish you all the best if you decide to go for co-op. And that's pretty much it for me. Thank you very much guys, and I will see you in the next one.